President. The FAA recently imposed a moratorium on all new wind projects in the Mid-Columbia region of Oregon. The reason? The wind turbines interfere with a military radar site in Fossil. Wind farms developed by large corporations and private landowners in Wasco, Sherman, Gilliam, Morrow, and Klickitat counties have time-sensitive binding power purchase agreements and a wide variety of contracts in place that could cost the Mid-Columbia region to lose $2 to $3 billion in new investments, jobs, property taxes, land leases, and other economic activities if the ban is not lifted. Did the FAA blindside these projects by shutting them down in such a critical stage? And do the landowners have any recourse at all? What's the real story here? Richard, what do you think?
Well, I think there's
really
a little stink going over at the FAA because they did come in at the last minute and say, oh, by the way, we didn't do enough of a study, which in governmental speak, that means, put it in concrete and we'll wait around for 20 years and see what happens. The area that they're talking about, especially with the radar and Fossil, is a military radar. It's not necessarily used all the time for commercial stuff because commercial has a whole different setup. I do know, however, that wind turbines do cause a variety of they disrupt a variety of things, and least of all, obviously, birds. But the point is, I think, and the issue is the last-minute walk-in by the FAA to put a halt to what's going on there. They're talking about building wind farms that'll generate 854 total megawatts of power, which is almost what Trojan used to put out. It's a lot of electricity. And the bigger part that I think both Oregon and Washington are horrified, and I'm amazed that their congressional and senatorial staffs aren't over knocking on the FAA's door, is that that's a huge investment into counties that have unemployment. They don't have a real job growth potential. And the last thing is the Obama administration is pushing renewable energy projects like there is no tomorrow.
Right.
So I'm a little stunned that the FAA would go against what the administration is trying to put out there. Also, interestingly enough, they haven't done it in Texas, even though Texas also has lots of military radar sites. So either something is going on in Texas that isn't going on here, or vice versa.
You don't mess with Texas.
It's full of Texans, no wonder.
Yeah. It seems like a classic, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's classic, left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing in government. You got one big government program over here trying to get in the way of another big government program over there. And it's the kind of thing that needs to be resolved quickly. Who saw it coming? I don't know. Nobody, it appears. So it needs to be resolved quickly. It's an awful lot of investment that's largely backed by tax dollars.
Right, exactly.
And so it needs to be addressed quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this coming with the Obama administration with their push for renewables and supposedly calling it a green type thing, which I guess it is. But you're talking about an industrial use on farmland. I mean, gee, I thought that wasn't permitted in Oregon. And surprise, surprise, you're going to have conflicts. And there are places in Southern California that has wind, can put in the turbines, but they can't get a permit to run a transmission line across an area that has some sort of little animal in it. Well, the only way this will work, where you need to have transmission lines from the turbines and these wind farms, is for the government to preempt land use and other restrictions. And you have two environmental groups that are working against each other. And what I think the president underestimated was how many of these nut jobs there are out there that will fight this or fight that. It's not a homogeneous group of people, nuts, but they're individual. And so for some people, boy, saving the desert is the most important thing in the world.
Actually, it's the DOD, the Department of Defense, which has weighed in with its large foot because I did a quick take a look at the installation that's in Fossil, which is a military radar. It's really old. We're talking
Right.
World War II.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is a brand new high-tech facility that is going on. And the other thing you need to realize is that improvements are happening in radar all the time. It's not like we just, we have radar, so now we're going to go work on microchips instead, because it's Homeland Defense and Homeland Security is a part of that whole thing.
So isn't there better radar available if they could afford to upgrade?
Yes,
that would
there
solve
is.
this problem.
Oh, yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Okay, so is there any reason why people wouldn't believe that the reason that they are doing this is to get money out of the people that are halfway through the project, and if they don't pay up to upgrade the radar, well, then they just shut them down?
Well, the federal government would do that.
No, that doesn't
you're not
sound
going to extort
like
anything out of the
something we'd
business
be
owners
involved
on that.
in.
But I think all I can say is that I think there's a piece of this we don't know. It just feels like a story that's not complete. Anytime you're dealing with military installations, you can never be sure you know everything that's occurring at that military institution, because there may be confidential or top secret stuff that's going on, or just information, or you just don't know what all the duties are that are going on there. So it just appears as if something we're not being told would be disrupted by those, and so they've using the FAA as an excuse to stop it. Whether or not that is an issue that can be resolved. I mean, it could just be that it is an old facility and they're being stubborn, and somebody who has the right clearance can look into this and clear it up. But it could also just be that there's something else that goes on there that they would, certainly do not want to divulge the details of, and the windmills just can't be where they're located for whatever that is to occur.
But what's really interesting is that these people have been going along with their plans for years, and up until 2 weeks before they were notified, we're still getting permits granted and everything else, and then all of a sudden
the FAA throws a moratorium
here's a moratorium, and
all the more reason to believe that it's something that's a little bit off the beaten path, because the normal channels would have picked this up.
Yeah.
If you're running something that's a little bit more of a side channel, you wouldn't know that until the last. Somebody's building windmills. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might be one of the last people to hear that. So I just, my gut tells me that there's something missing from this story.
Maybe the facility in Fossil is Area 52.
Oregon's Area 52. Well, I'm suspicious of the no-growth crowd, because it's possible that people who are opposed for whatever reason to energy development might have found a technicality in the law under which they can try to halt or slow down the development. As Matt said, we don't really know. I suspect the answer is blowing in the wind.
oh my goodness, I
Peter,
knew
Paul, and
that
Mary
was...
were very sorry
Well,
for that one.
it'll be interesting when they do an analysis of when this is basically built out, how much the state's given up in tax credits, how much the federal government has, and as far as I'm aware, most of that energy is going to California.
It is. It's all slated for
And-
California. They have big power purchase agreements in place that if they violate, they will all get fined. They have, just think, if you're building a house, if one person doesn't show up in your sheetrocker or whatever, well, that just delays everybody else. Well, these people will lose their funding. They will lose their contracts.
But other government
It's very, very time sensitive. So
other government agencies, BPA is building a substation there,
Right.
and they're
So-
to connect to the tie line that goes south.
this has just started, so we'll not hear the end of this. We'll probably be discussing this again on another show.